Playing as a squad has always been a part of Battlefield titles, but here in Battlefield 5, it's more important than ever that you do so. In this video, I'm going to give you some hints and some pointers on how to become a more effective squad player and to be part of a killer squad. Your squad is important to you, and you are important to your squad. There is increased visibility of squad mates from the moment you start a multiplayer match. The green highlighted soldiers are the ones you're looking for, and with that increased visibility comes increased reliance. Your soldier, the class you've selected, and the combat role that you have active within that class will likely offer another player in your squad something that they need, especially when playing as medic or support. Now, it's important you understand the roles each of the soldiers in your squad is using and how to extract what you need from them, as well as knowing your own role. But arguably, the most important role in the squad is the squad leader. The squad looks to the leader to direct them in battle. It's their job to mark out objectives, to attack or defend. They can use the area spotting tool to call out dangers, and it's their responsibility to call in reinforcements using requisition points that you've all built up together. Now, these points are visible next to the squad leader's name down by the minimap, and the squad leader has on hand lots of different tools that they can call in for a certain amount of requisition points. To get those points, simply play as a squad, taking out enemies, healing one another, handing out ammo, reviving one another, playing the objective, and even more. Reinforcements can be extremely powerful and effective when deployed at the right time. Now, you'll need to make sure that you have a good mix of classes within your squad. This will make sure you're all able to take advantage of each other's gadgets, weapons, and class abilities. For example, I'd say it's almost necessary for a squad to have a medic soldier in it. That way they can toss out the heals after a gunfight, and they can provide fast revives to the rest of the squad. It's important to make sure you have enough ammo as well, so a support soldier is advisable. Getting ammo from their pouches or crates will keep you topped off and not left wanting when you come across an enemy team. Depending on the map, a recon soldier might be a good option as well. This class possesses a lot of gadgets that aid in informing the rest of your squad what's actually happening on the battlefield. Their spotting scope 3D spots enemies, their flare gun spots enemies on the minimap, and their powerful rifles will help you take down enemies from a distance. And I'd say there's always room for an assault soldier. These are the demolition soldiers on the battlefield carrying heavy explosives to destroy cover and weaken enemy armor. Having a good mix of these four classes will ensure your entire squad is well equipped as a unit to take on the enemy team. However, playing the objective is the most important part of squad play. As a group of 4, you hold far more power than one soldier standing alone. Game mode objectives are shown at the top of the screen. Blue icons denote held objectives, red ones denote objectives to attack. Play each class to their strengths and use the comma rows or in-game comms to make sure everyone knows what's happening. If you go down and you can't be revived by a medic or be gotten back up with a buddy revive, there's a chance that your squad is still alive and can be spawned back in on. So rather than needing to go all the way back to the deploy screen, use the squad deploy screen to get right back into the action. Your squad is kind of like your family in Battlefield 5, with reinforcements being a direct reward for positive squad play. Working together really does have its benefits. Thanks very much for watching. My name is Westy, and I'll catch you guys on the battlefield.
Hey there troops, it's me the Tactical Brit, and this video is sponsored by EA. Today we're taking a deep dive and look at how to find and unlock objectives and supply drops in order to get the best loot in Firestorm to give you the best chances of winning. If you happen to be a veteran of the Battlefield franchise, some of these objectives may feel very similar, but they do have some new twists. But for all players, it's vital to know the objectives available in Firestorm and more specifically, how they'll be beneficial for you. To begin with, we have strong boxes. Now these are the orange boxes marked Solace available and found on the map. These orange crates that you see dotted around are more likely to have higher tier loot in them than stuff you'd commonly find on the floor. They're found mostly at named locations and points of interest. So for example, if you were to head to the dig site, you'd find multiple of these boxes. Likewise, if you were to head to any other landmark on the map, you'd likely find multiple boxes in these areas. It's risk and reward. You simply have to open the box by hitting the open button on your given platform, but there isn't any real task involved. The only difficulty here is that these are rare boxes that are only typically found on the landmarks where most players will land. So the reward here is much higher tier loot, but the risk being that you're going to have to land in locations where there are typically a high concentration of players. So you'll see lots of parachutes in the area, and it's down to you to make a judgment call as to whether or not you want more strong boxes when you first land. Next up are safes. Safes are very similar to strong boxes in the sense that they are a risk-reward prospect, and also typically only found in named locations. Safes house an even higher chance of getting even better loot in Battlefield 5 Firestorm, but the problem with these is that they require time to open. Holding the open button will put you into an animation of cracking the safe, and you can only look around on a swivel around about a 180-degree radius. So looking around simply isn't enough. If you're playing in squads, it's highly recommended that you get somebody to look after you whilst you're busting the safe, but if you're playing solos, you're really going to have to listen out to potential enemies nearby who may decide to rush you as you're opening the safe. Now of course the risk here is that you will get caught and you will get taken out whilst taking the safe yourself, but the rewards here are huge. So if you can secure a location where you've found a safe and you're adamant that nobody is nearby, this is definitely a risk worth taking. Next up are supply drops, and supply drops in Firestorm can be found in two ways. The first one is a supply drop that's available from passing planes. Passing planes will drop supply drops sequentially throughout the game, and you'll see them come down in parachutes in small canisters. Now this shouldn't be mistaken with vehicle supply drops, which drop vehicles, so make sure you actually look up at the parachute to ensure it is a supply drop itself. Now, supply drops are marked with green smoke, and this smoke is visually available to everybody in the game, so when a supply drop comes down, if the parachute didn't already make it obvious enough, the smoke will, and the smoke will dissipate when you have finally opened the crate yourself, or if an enemy happens to get their hands on it before you. Now there's lots of extra loot, typically what you would find in the likes of a strongbox or a safe within a supply drop, such as weapons, gadgets, armor, backpacks and everything in between, and it's likely that you'll find some tier 3 loot in these supply drops that drop off from the planes. Now these supply drops that come from planes have a huge risk, being that everybody in the map can see where they've landed, and if they're nearby they'll be able to see the green smoke with it. It's also a huge reward though with those tier 3 items. Now the next way to get a supply drop is actually through a flare gun that you can pick up yourself. Now if you've opened a strong box, a safe or some other way of gathering loot before, you may have been lucky enough to come across a actual supply drop flare gun. Now with this, it's a much safer and risk-free way of calling in your supply drop. You'll be able to fire it anywhere on the ground and the supply crate will land at that given location. Enemies nearby will still be able to see where this supply drop is coming in and see the green smoke, but it does give you the opportunity to get set up and make sure you have a secure location before you call this in. So the risk here is significantly lessened, but there is of course the maximum level of loot in tier 3 loot that is available to you. Next up are supply points, and these are the traditional style capture objectives you'd see in a game like Conquest. These appear randomly on the map as the game goes on, and you'll be able to notice them not only on the minimap itself, but also with a giant air balloon that slowly lifts from the objective. Now, there is a big risk in this, because once you start capturing this point, everybody knows you're there, and typically these points are out in the open, don't have a lot of cover, and require the entire squad to be vigilant to make sure nobody attacks whilst you're capturing the objective. Once you're in the proximity, the flag will steadily start ticking over. You'll see that you'll steadily be capturing it, but everybody else on the map can see that too. And that means that you're likely going to have some poachers coming in to collect the loot. Now there is lots of loot available. There are 2 supply canisters like you would see from supply drops on the ground that activate the second you have fully captured the flag. But be aware that the most cunning of players will likely wait for you to capture the flag before executing any kind of ambush. To minimize the risk on this kind of objective, you're going to want something like a heavy vehicle, like a tank, present in order to effectively capture this, or you're going to want to make sure that the rest of your squad mates are set up in good locations to provide you with cover. For an added layer of benefit, make sure you have smoke grenades equipped in order to quickly get out of any sticky situations. Finally, there's vehicle breakouts. Now these are dotted around the map and you may notice them because they have a bunker shape, but they aren't always inherently apparent on the minimap itself. Now in order to unlock a vehicle breakout, you need to turn the 2 wheels on either side of the vault doors. This is time consuming and it sets off an alarm. In a vehicle breakout, you will find some kind of heavy or offensive vehicle that will have some kind of weaponry on it, be it a cannon or a light infantry cannon. Now inside this there's also options for things like fuel. You may as well find a strong box too, and you will also find things like ammunition to load the tank. Now these aren't always guaranteed, but make sure you have a sweep round inside these bunkers before you jump in the vehicle. Naturally, as you start busting open this place, you're going to hear massive sirens. These sirens are audible across the entire map, and expect people to rally to them like they would to a supply point. Now the only bonus here is that this is an audible cue and not a visual one, so people will actually have to actively search for your vehicle breakout in order to find your squad. Now, there is a big risk involved here, and honestly, the best way to do this is much like you'd approach a supply point. You want 2 people operating those wheels to get the vehicle out and open, but you also want 2 people providing some overwatch and providing security for your squad mates should anybody want to poach what you have. So that's about it for finding the best loot in Battlefield 5 Firestorm. Now, feel free to branch out to some of the lesser named locations. They tend to have less players and they'll give you more time to accumulate loot steadily. But if you're a player who's looking to get the best loot fast in order to be very effective on the field, drop on the named locations, supply drops, supply points, vehicle breakouts and strong boxes. They will be your best friends as well as safes. So troops, that's about it from me today. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you again soon in the next video. Hey troops, it's me the Tactical Brit, and this video is sponsored by EA. Now today we're looking at how to manage your inventory and get more loot in Battlefield 5 Firestorm. Making sure you have sufficient ammunition for your weapons, as well as the kind of equipment you want to carry in the right places, is really important to performing well in Firestorm, and today I'm going to give you a full rundown as well as some pro tips. Now in Firestorm there are 2 primary weapon slots, 1 sidearm slot, multiple gadget slots dependent on your backpack, and ammunition slots. All of this can be seen in the bottom right hand corner of your screen. You'll start with a limited number of gadget slots, available at only 2 until you pick up an extra backpack, as well as only 1 grenade slot. A small backpack will provide you 2 extra slots for either gadgets or grenade, a medium backpack will give you 4 extra slots for gadgets or grenades, and a heavy backpack will provide you up to 6 slots for gadgets or grenades. But you can only have 2 gadgets and 1 grenade readily available through buttons on your D-pad or keys on your keyboard. Equipping gear is very easy. You simply have to head over to the gear that you see on the floor and pick it up by pressing the individual button on screen on your available platform. But the tricky part really is maintaining some form of management. You can see at the very top of your inventory that there is in fact a bar which indicates just how full your backpack is. And the more full this is, the less things you can carry. Now there are really easy ways management wise to make sure that this isn't a problem. The first one is to drop ammunition you're not using. So if you're using a rifle and a sniper, you only need rifle and sniper ammo, so carrying any other ammo type would just be excessive. It's likely in this game that when you find a weapon that you want to use, there'll at least be a magazine or 2 with it when you pick it up. So carrying excess ammunition isn't really necessary. Another pro tip if you're looking to cut some weight from your inventory is that if you're playing solos, it may not be worth using a pistol. Most people use pistols in the down state, which can only happen in the squads mode if you have friends with you. If you're in solos and you get taken down, well, that's it, you're out of the game, and using a pistol in the down state is no longer an option. Now, of course, you can keep this in the game if you happen to use it as a quick secondary, but ultimately you have two primary weapons that you can switch between, which should suffice. You can find the various tiers of backpack being small, medium and large based on the color rarity next to them. A small one is green, a medium one is blue, and a purple one is large. The higher the rarity, the more inventory space you have, but management is still essential even if you have the highest rarity of backpack. Having things clustered in there is not something you really want to do. There are other pretty cool things you can do when managing your inventory as well. For example, you can split all items, be it gadgets or ammunitions, to drop it to your friendly teammates or just drop it in general if you're not looking to carry too much of it. Rather than dropping the entire thing, you can drop maybe one armor plate or maybe 20 bullets for a friendly. You don't necessarily have to get rid of the whole thing. You can also drop primary weapons if you find yourself in a tough spot with a friendly who doesn't have a weapon available to them. And most importantly, you can organize your gadgets in terms of priority. So there are two gadget slots that are available from the get-go that will always be there, and they're accessible via a key on your keyboard or a button on your D-pad, but the slots below them work in order. So on the left-hand side, whatever is at the top below the active gadget slot will automatically be equipped when the gadget that's currently active has run out. For example, if I have two Panzerfaust in my active slot on the left-hand side, and I fire both of them, that active slot will be replaced by the gadget that is directly below it, no matter what that gadget is. Now, in terms of management, it might be worth having an offensive and defensive slot. I find myself using things like Panzerfausts and frag rifle grenades on the left-hand side, and things like armor plates and syringes on the right-hand side. So that way I know which button to press when situations get rough and I need to heal myself or others, or if I need to bring out something more offensive to do some damage. Be aware that with your primary weapons as well, they also have rarities ranging from green to a pinkish color, so tier 1, 2 and 3. And if you happen to see a higher tier variant of the same weapon you're using, it's definitely worth picking up because it will have more attachments and better perks than the one that you're presently using, although the damage model will remain the same. So troops, that's about it from me today. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you again soon in another video.
This video is sponsored by EA. Hey guys, how you going? This is Billy World again, and today we're going to take a look at some tips on how to find and use.
In Firestorm, you can win matches with almost any weapon or gadget that you happen to be carrying, but of course the better the weapon, the more likely you are to win.
Hey everyone, it's Flakfire. An emphasis on vehicles sets Battlefield 5's Firestorm apart from its peers. They can play a huge role in ensuring your survival, eliminating the competition, and transporting you across the vast expanse of Halvoy. There are several different vehicle types in Firestorm, including combat vehicles, transport vehicles, and towable weapons. Combat vehicles are the big guns. Ranging from light armored vehicles like the Staghound to the lumbering Sturmtiger, these vehicles provide a squad with both protection and an offensive punch. Most of these vehicles have a separate driver and gunner position in Firestorm, so to fire on the move, you're going to have to fill those seats, work together, and communicate. In solos, you'll have to switch between driver and gunner often. Some light armored vehicles can be called in with special flare pistols, but the game changers like the Sturmtiger can only be found inside vehicle lockups. Those are the massive bunkers that dot the map. Opening a vehicle lockup can be done by a single player, but it goes much quicker as a two-person job. If you're cracking one open with a squad, make sure your teammates watch your six. Trying to open a vehicle lockup instantly triggers an alarm that can draw opportunistic enemies to your position. Meanwhile, transport vehicles like the staff car or pickup truck generally offer a speedy way to get from one place to another at the expense of armor and armament. Many can carry an entire squad of 4. These vehicles can be found scattered across Halvoy, but can also be called in using special flare pistols. The amphibious Schwimmwagen allows you to traverse land and sea, while the unarmed Colibri helicopter is another standout, capable of transporting an entire squad above the map's unforgiving Norwegian terrain. However, just because you're in the air doesn't mean you're safe from the ground. Anti-aircraft guns are one of the game's towable weapons, along with a powerful anti-tank gun. Both of these weapons can be towed by combat and transport vehicles, including the iconic tractor, thus giving players the ability to turn any location into a fortress. To tow an emplacement, back up to the weapon and press T on the keyboard, B on Xbox, or circle on PS4. The same button will also unhitch the gun. Towable vehicles are often found in small villages or other points of interest. All powered vehicles in Firestorm require fuel and ammunition. These can often be found near vehicles, inside vehicle lockups, and scattered across the map. There are 2 types of vehicle ammunition, light and heavy. Light ammunition resupplies light vehicle weapons like machine guns, while heavy ammunition provides shells for large guns like the Storm Tiger's 380mm rocket launcher. Don't forget that even towable weapons have a limited amount of ammunition. To rearm a vehicle, equip the appropriate ammunition type in your inventory and left mouse click or hold the right trigger on controller. Without a steady supply of fuel, all of the vehicles on Firestorm will eventually crawl to a halt. You can see your fuel gauge and vehicle health at the bottom of the screen, plus an alarm sounds when you're about to run out of juice. Jerry cans provide fuel for vehicles and use the same mechanic as rearming one. Unfortunately, vehicles in Firestorm can't be repaired, so if yours sustains serious damage, you might consider continuing on foot. If you're killed inside a vehicle, you cannot be revived. Also keep in mind, vehicles are loud and will attract attention. Avoid ambushes by keeping a close eye on your surroundings and avoiding areas saturated with buildings and ample cover. The anti-tank mine can also be found on Firestorm as a gadget, so keep your eyes on the road. Good luck on the battlefield, and thanks for watching.
In Firestorm, it's all about being the last man standing, whether that's playing solo or as a squad. The mode is built around team play and working together, so squadding up with your friends is definitely the best way to play. Squads of 4 can battle it out, working different angles and using different weapons to work their way to victory, but if you want all the glory for yourself, then absolutely, you can do that as well. To get yourself into squad matchmaking, head into the Firestorm tile in the multiplayer menu. If you want to play squads with your friends, first party up into a group of 4, and then the party leader can hit the play squad mode button. However, if you want to play squads but none of your friends are available at that point, then you can hit the play squad mode button without a party and the game will matchmake you into a random squad. If you want to play solo in a squads match, then you can click the skip button that appears after you click play squad mode and it will matchmake you in alone into a squads match, if you fancy the challenge. When you're in-game, communication is obviously very important. If you're comfortable having VoIP enabled, I highly suggest you do that. However, you can still work together without voice comms as well. As a squad, when you're in the plane, deciding where to jump, use the pinning system on the map to suggest a location. Make sure to pick somewhere that's going to have plenty of loot to share amongst the 4 of you. As you drop out of the plane, maybe lay down a marker so the whole squad deploys at the same point. And don't forget to share resources like ammunition and healing syrettes with squad mates. That way you're all prepared for an early gunfight. Sometimes even sacrificing a second primary weapon to a squad mate makes the entire squad more powerful. Naturally, with 4 players, you're all going to want to do slightly different things. Some players like to move ahead of the group and be a spotter and look out for other players, and others like to stick together for protection. If you want to go somewhere, ping it on the map and see if the squad want to follow you. Now, objectives are a natural point to converge on in Battlefield games, and Firestorm is absolutely no different. As a squad, you stand a much better chance of capturing an objective and securing the loot than you would as a solo player. If you're all able to get into the capture area, securing the objective will happen much faster. It might be beneficial, however, to have a lookout, someone a little bit further away who can keep an eye out for enemy squads looking to come and spoil the party. Switching gears, however, to solo play, things are a little bit different and things change during a round of Firestorm. You can be much more decisive with your choice about where to drop, what loot to take and what to leave behind, and where you want to go as you keep yourself away from the ring of fire. Objectives are much harder to capture as a solo player as it takes a longer time, but the payoff could be massive as all the loot is for you and no one else. Vehicle lockups are also a higher risk because you need to open both doors fully to get the vehicle out. And with that siren going off, everyone's going to hear what you're doing. Also, vehicles are squad-based vehicles with distinct driving positions and weapon positions, so you'll need to get yourself familiar with seat switching to make the best of that Panzer IV that you just got your hands on. Both solos and squads in Firestorm offer great gameplay and similar pacing, but they give you the choice between working with others and sharing the spoils, or being a lone wolf, determined to take all the glory for yourself. Make sure you dive into Firestorm soon and give it a go. Thank you very much for watching today, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.
Hey everyone, it's Flakfire. Survival is paramount in Battlefield 5 Firestorm, and some of the most important resources you'll find in the game mode are first aid syrettes and medical syringes, as well as fuel and ammunition for vehicles. Aside from armor, first aid syrettes are what keep you alive in Firestorm. You'll find these throughout Halvoy, scattered on the ground and in various containers. Players can carry up to 8 syrettes in their inventory at a time. If you're injured, equip the syrette and left mouse click, or press right trigger on the controller. The flashing bar on the screen shows the amount of health the syrette will restore, but health is replenished gradually, and you must wait a short time before you can use your next syrette. A short cooldown timer appears on your inventory to let you know when you can heal again. You can even use syrettes to heal your squad mates. Simply equip the syrette, approach your teammate, and left mouse click or press the right trigger on controller. Be sure to communicate with your teammates to point out syrettes in-game, or share your stock with those in need. While syrettes are useful for healing yourself and others, medical syringes are helpful for reviving your teammates. Reviving squad mates in Firestorm takes time, and it leaves you vulnerable to enemy fire. This requires you to hold still and press E on the keyboard, X on Xbox, or square on PS4. By contrast, syringes keep you on the move by instantly reviving your downed friends, which helps keep you from becoming another casualty right next to them. Syringes are harder to come by in Firestorm, but they can bail out a squad in a tight spot. To use one, equip it and approach your downed buddy, then left mouse click or press the right trigger on controller. If you're downed in Firestorm, crawl towards your teammates to increase the chance of getting revived. If you picked up a sidearm on Halvoy, you might be able to fire a few desperate shots at an enemy. Meanwhile, vehicles in Firestorm can be absolute game changers. There are 3 ways to grab some wheels or tracks on Halvoy. You can either find vehicles scattered throughout the map, call in vehicles using special flare pistols, or crack open a vehicle lockup for the most powerful vehicles on the map. However you obtain one, you will need to keep it fueled and well armed. Before hopping into your vehicle, check for nearby heavy and light ammunition as well as jerry cans. To load your rounds and fuel, equip the resource in your inventory and approach the vehicle. Click left mouse or press the right trigger on your controller to start the refueling or rearming process. One last thing to mention. Fortifications aren't in Firestorm at launch, as the same button or key opens up your inventory screen. Good luck on the battlefield, and thanks for watching. Hey everyone, it's Flakfire. Battlefield 5's Firestorm map is huge, more than 10 times the size of the sprawling Hamada map in multiplayer, and set in Norway, Halvoy is truly massive. The map features a wide range of terrain types, including snowy mountains, lakes, fields, forests, islands, beaches, and rolling hills, all designed to provide a varied experience every time you drop. Although the map is gigantic, the drop zone in Firestorm changes each match. You'll have to pick and choose a landing spot once you're airborne. If you're not sure about where to drop, there are plenty of standout locations with excellent chances for top-tier loot. My personal favorites are Halvoy Dam, Havdalar, and the Pluto dig site. Halvoy Dam is packed with loot boxes, and you'll often find a safe with great gear. Havdalar has plenty of buildings that offer cover if you're dropping in hot, plus there's a vehicle lockup to the northwest. The Pluto dig site is a popular drop zone with immediate access to good loot and a vehicle lockup at the bottom of the quarry. If those don't appeal to you, Baldur's Point features a lighthouse, a perfect defensive position, particularly because it's largely surrounded by water and difficult to approach undetected. Frigaton features large warehouses for urban combat, and the roofs of buildings offer excellent vantage points. The Hodstad Church is surrounded by plenty of small buildings and vehicles, and be sure to check the church basement for weapons and supplies. Wherever you end up dropping in Firestorm, jumping early on Halvoy generally guarantees frenetic fighting as soon as you hit the ground. Look around for enemies as you jump so you know what you're up against. Personally, I prefer to wait until the last few seconds of the flight and pick a location with some breathing room at the edge of the Ring of Fire. That circle of flames in Firestorm might seem intimidating, but to the calm and collected player, its bark is often worse than its bite. Winding up outside the circle isn't an instant death sentence. You can run to safety, especially if you've got medical syringes to replenish the health that the flames chip away. However, as the round progresses, being outside of the circle drains your health quicker. Remember that the Firestorm destroys everything in its path, including buildings, and if you're in one when that happens, expect to take damage from falling debris. It's not all bad though. Since the Ring of Fire obscures everyone's vision, you can use the ring to tactically flank enemies through the flames, if you're feeling lucky. One last thing to consider, you'll often find safes, vehicles, and towable weapons at many of the major interest points on Halvoy. However, they're spawned randomly and their exact locations vary from match to match. Learning where they're likely to spawn increases your chances to be the last left alive. Good luck on the battlefield, and thanks for watching.
This video is sponsored by EA.